Hey, Julie. So you look really pretty today. I think you've been working really hard with Christy Russell. She's got you hooked up pretty good. What do you think?
This is my top hat
Your
suit coat.
your top hat suit
I've been
coat.
going to
I
the
like that.
circus.
I like that a lot. So today I'm gonna bring you a little bit of a different topic, and it's on selling.
Okay.
So my question to you is do you like selling?
Is that it? No, not particularly.
What if I told you you've been selling your whole life?
I would probably have to agree.
Well, today's podcast is titled Family Sales. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I am your host, of course, Dr. Skip Wyss, and I have the amazing Dr. Fairy Fingers with me again today. Hey Dr. Julie, how are you?
I'm good.
And as always, everybody, I'm doing pretty good myself. I am super elated. We're here every week to give you amazing advice for you service professionals out there on your family, on your business, on your faith, on your marriage. We are here for you. As you start listening to us, please subscribe below. Please listen. Please jump on this. Listen to us on Libsyn, on YouTube, everywhere, right? We want to get this thing out. We want to talk to people. So share. If you find anything amazing about this, don't be afraid to leave comments below or leave comments on our YouTube page or on our podcast pages. We would love it. The more we can grow this, the more we can help people, the more we can help strengthen marriages for couples that work together. That's probably one of the most, it can be very difficult at times, right?
It can be trying.
Yeah, so it can be trying. It's not easy. Sometimes me and you argue. Sometimes we get a little frustrated with each other, wouldn't you say?
Agreed.
Agree. And that happens. But what if I told you, babe, that I've been trying to sell you my whole life on me?
I would agree.
You would agree. How good am I at being a salesman to you?
We're still married. We are married. We have kids, and we're still married.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes people see sales as extremely sleazy. I think people don't like being sold in general. Where do you think that negative connotation came from?
Car selling.
Like people actually showing up at your door trying to sell you a vacuum.
I think if you honestly are in a frame of mind that you're looking for something, then when you seek somebody out, that would be the appropriate exchange. It's when maybe you aren't anticipating something and somebody tries to force something on you and your mind wasn't currently there. That's when it feels, and if they don't resonate with you, you don't resonate with them, and they aren't listening to your language of like, no, it's not the right time, then that's when we get that feeling, and that only pushes that person away.
So you mean like that cold sale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be warmed up. You
Yep.
got to be like actionable. You got to be awake, aware. And there's 4 A's that people can kind of think about when they are selling. And what I mean by that is whether or not, so let's go back to David Meltzer talked about this at Sales Workshop, is people having an open mind or not having an open mind, right? And he talked about the 3 no system. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Like the 3 no's. And each time it's checking to see if that person's mind is open or not, right? So when would you say that your mind is the most open? Because this would be great for me to know when I'm trying to sell you on things.
Not in the morning.
Well, this is true.
Not when I have a task list of things, or if I'm in production mode.
And not at night. So when so when is there an opening for you?
Give me some chocolate or a plate of cookies.
Yeah, or a little glass of wine if it's good.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, and that's so finding somebody in their open mindset. I would say when somebody has an open mindset, they are generally smiley. They're generally more open. They're not closed off. Their arms aren't across their chest. They're not straight-faced. I think those are all areas where somebody has an open mind. David talked about this a lot, is getting somebody to open up, is telling them a joke, saying something kind of lightheartedly sarcastic to them, and seeing how they react, seeing how they respond. Do they respond, all of a sudden they put an RBF on, or do they smile? Do they laugh? Do they kind of get a little glimmer in their eye? Do they joke back at you? Right? Like sarcasm does work.
It does.
It does. Yeah.
You're looking for that initiation. If they're kind of look at you and they if there's that start of that smile, then
Mm-hmm.
they're processing what you said. So that means it's an open person.
And and that to me, I often get this from people that come and observe us in our office, especially students. Dr. Skip, you're very sarcastic with a lot of your patients. Like you have sarcasm nonstop. The reason why is to keep people's minds open, because chiropractic in general is something that you do have to have an open mind about, that you do have to be very open to the ability of your body's ability to heal itself, and not thinking that your healing comes from every pill or potion that's found in your medicine cabinet or in a drawer, correct? Yeah, and that's why I'm always sarcastic with my patients. But if I'm not sarcastic with the families we have in our office or with the kids or make witty comments, it's because I'm not comfortable with that person. Right?
Yep.
Like my mind isn't open at that time. But what I find is that when they have an open mind, they're more open to hearing everything.
Agreed.
Yeah. So like with you, I gotta get you laughing and giggling, and I always know when I can come to you with certain things because it depends on how you present yourself that day. If you come in, and this is just a little bit of how my thought process works with you. And gentlemen out there, if you're listening to this and you have a wife very similar to mine who's very loving and wonderful to be around, at times they are very serious, and you got to kind of pick your moments, right? To
Ask what you need
to
or
ask
want.
what I need or want, yeah, or anything like that. And generally, if you're joking and having a good time, I know that you have an open mind. If you're very frustrated or if you're quiet, I know that that is not the time that I'm going to come and approach you for anything, right? So
Good
how
like that.
does so let's put the shoe on the other foot. What about you when you're working with me?
Oh, you're an easy person to read.
What? Yeah, probably, but what I wear my emotions on my face all the time. I don't try to, but they're just there, right?
Yeah, so when you are in a process of, if you're in production mode, that is not the time to interrupt. If you're trying to process something, or if you're going through, if you have a steps of things that you need to get through, constant interruptions is always going to resort into a no for whomever is asking.
Am I easily distracted?
You are very easily distracted.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But that's because my mind's working nonstop through like probably 30 different tasks at one time. And I have a lot of conversations in my head too. So
Most men do work that way.
yeah. I'm constantly trying to sell myself. Always. Like always trying to convince myself of one way over the other. So let's start with our children, right? So a lot of people don't realize, especially families out there too, you're actually in sales nonstop, mom and dad, because you are convincing your children to do something all the time.
Put pants on, wash the dishes,
pants
brush
on.
your teeth, comb your hair, get ready for school.
Put pants on.
Well, let's be
Yeah,
be
I mean,
real.
I just learned the other day that my dad apparently mows the lawn in his underwear at my house. I guess that not at my house, but at the house that I grew up in, and it's out in the country. But that is that is hilarious because my dad does not wear full coverage underwear.
Just leave that there. When did the bloopers come out?
But
these?
they're not. This is full on. There is no bloopers, maybe a couple. But I think selling your children is one of the biggest things that we become very, very good at, is convincing your children to do stuff that's good for their health, that's good for their body, that's good for their mind, their soul. I don't think one of the biggest tasks I think with children is convincing them to go to church.
Yeah. But if we go back to like how we've raised our kids, it also comes from a,
Do we like to do it as well?
a leadership.
Yep.
They're gonna act upon the things that they see. What kind of foundation are you building for them? That then ultimately you're wanting them to do something, and sometimes they start to make that own decision themselves because they're
Mhm.
modeling after good behavior versus of you making them want to do something. It's so much easier when somebody has already been sold on something and you don't have to say that language. They've already, you've covered all of the what is the word I'm looking for? You've covered
All the objections?
all the objectives,
Mm.
all the negatives of something that that person can come up with, and you've laid all those things out, so they have all of the answers to the things that they're going to maybe ask you or use for an
Knocking down
objective.
those objectives in their mind before they come out.
Getting rid of those
Yep.
barriers, and then the only thing left to do is to comply potentially with
Seal
the thing
the
that you
deal
want. Yeah.
with them to do it. And I think that comes back to anything. I think when we're talking to people in our public, whether it's potential colleague, a potential client, or even your children, it's they don't like being sold a bill of goods. They don't like being sold something they're not in agreement with or on the same level with. But more importantly is if they feel sold, they immediately second guess what they did. And
Yes.
we've all been in that situation where we immediately second guess what we did, or we feel bad about something when really we bought it or agreed to buy it at a time where we knew it was the right thing to do, but then we second guess because other people don't agree with it.
It's that buyer's remorse.
So when you have buyer's remorse or you second guess, and let's say it's because there's somebody else in your family telling you it was a bad decision, how does one navigate that conversation then to help that other person to resell the person that's negative towards what you just decided to do?
Well, I think it would go back. Did that other person know? Like, so if we're talking about setting rewards, right, for something that we had planned to do,
Okay.
or if it's a purchase, did that other person know what you were attempting to do and what you were going to do to reward yourself with?
Okay.
So did that person fully know?
Hmm.
And if they fully knew what your intention was and that's exactly what you did, then that is an objection that that other person didn't clear out. That they maybe had a chance to say, no, I don't think that this is the right time to get that, but maybe in a few months we can do that. Or this is how I think we should maybe do things in a certain way, because you never want to say no to your partner, if that's what we're talking about, or no to your child, but give them a different timeline that they can still be actionable on those things that they want to do to still be able to reward themselves. If that person maybe didn't know what you were doing and they didn't know what reward you set up, and it doesn't cause material harm to your family, then I just say, I don't really care what they think.
I like that. I also think that it comes down though to the other side of it, which I wanted to hit on with you, is becoming that you're the most trusted advisor in your family. And if you're close friends, if you're best friends with your spouse, which I am with you, like you are my best friend, you are my most trusted advisor. I don't know if I'm your most trusted advisor. I think I am. So when we make decisions though in our family, knowing that that person, I trust them, I trust their decision, I trust what they did is the right thing to do for us. It had the best interest of our family in mind and of them in mind. I'm all for it. Is that kind of how your mind works?
Yeah, as long as we're on the same page with what we are attempting to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like you can this is can be from the family level, business level, right? If you know where you're going and everybody knows the path that you're heading towards,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's not going to cause any harm, if it's not going to negatively impact things,
Right.
then we need to have those wins in our life.
Right. And I think that I trust you and you trust me. And this is for people out there in their marriages. You have to be able to trust your spouse and know that your spouse is doing that has the best interest of you and your family in mind. I know that with Julie that happens. She knows that with me that happens. And if there's ever that inclination, guys out there or women, and you have that inclination where maybe this isn't the right decision for my family, or you feel your body just kind of tense up a little bit in a situation where you're buying or selling somebody, you can always back off and come back to it and revisit it. You can always bring in different opinions like your wife or your husband and help you make a decision so it benefits everybody. And it's also, you can bring your children in on it too, because what I found is that our children have the most amazing gut inclination and intuition, because they don't have things pulling at them like we do. You know, they don't think about finances, they don't think about bills, they don't think about all these other things. They just think about themselves or what makes them happy. And if something doesn't make them happy, they're going to pull away from it. If something makes them happy, they're going to go towards it. And I think Dave Meltzer hit on this too when he talked about it at Sales Workshop, was you need to take away what people don't want and give them what they do want. And children are the best version of that, right? Because if they don't want to vacuum and clean their room, it ain't going to happen. And no matter how hard you try to push and make it a negative situation, or even if you try to use negative enforcement, it doesn't work because they're going to resent you for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes back to human nature of being resenting the person that convinced you to do something or sold you to do something because you weren't in the right mindset or framework to actually have that happen.
You were closed.
You were closed off. And what do you think is really good steps from your perspective for somebody to open their mind up to a situation? Because I've come into situations very closed-minded. You've seen that happen, and you get really frustrated with me because you can tell that I'm already closed off. What are some really good practices to open your mind up from a personal perspective?
Well, I think it's first of laying the foundation. So if it's an ask of somebody, first, put the thought out there, maybe not directed towards that person. So again, you can put that out there, but you're not directly making that ask at that time because that person isn't open to it.
Seeding the conversation a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So then that allows them to finally start maybe thinking about it. And then you can come and revisit them again. And if they feel more open to it, then you can rebring that thought or that question back up. But then you can actually start to direct it towards that person.
Right. Right. I just think of like how I pre-sale you all the time. And I'm really like, it made me giggle because it did make me laugh inside right there because I'm like, okay, how have I seeded our conversations, not to manipulate, but actually see where you're at? And are you open to having the conversation about it? Whether it's buying a watch, doing something for our house, doing something for our children, or doing something for myself. I'll always seed you with a pre-ask. I always do because I just want to see what you're like about it. Because I test the water. I might put one toe in and one toe out. I might stick one hand in and one hand out. Guys, we've all been there, right? We've all been there. And if our spouse shows up and let's say we want to spend time with them, we will dip our toes in and out of that conversation a few times. And it's always I'm actually looking to get turned down 3 times. That's really, what it is if there's 3 no's, I'm good. It doesn't matter what it is, but if Julie says no 3 times or is just not open to it 3 times, I know that now is not the right time to even go about asking it, and we need to come back and revisit it at a different point. If it's a serious conversation, we do have those serious conversations. What do you think is one of the funnest parts about, selling your children or selling your spouse on an idea? Is there a fun part to it for you?
Well, I think it's a win-win for both parties involved. Right? So sometimes it's when you ask somebody to do something, it's okay, I do this, but what's going to happen? What's going to happen after that?
The repercussions are...
So when you can, pre-sale or give the whole of, okay, once we get this done or we do this, if it's chores like for our house, if somebody wants to go shopping, it's like, okay, if we can get these things all finished within this time period, then yes, absolutely.
Positive reinforcement.
To go and do these things.
Positive reinforcement.
Positive. But if we don't go to do those things, if we don't get those things maybe done, it's not going to bother me. I will still be happy, but then we just won't be able to go and do those things.
Right.
So it's also finding, when we're working with our kids, of those things of what they want, and ultimately lots of times it's not things. They just want time with you. Mm-hmm. And so my kids know if they want time with me, then if they are better at getting their things done that's expected of them, and I don't need to do that, then that means that we get more time together.
Yeah, and if we look at the love languages of both of our children, quality time is a big one for them. Gifts is actually a big one for them. And then acts of service, which is what's for you. Like they like things done for them and they like to do things for other people. I find that if you're just as excited about the situation, it helps as well. Like if my excitement impedes into you, or like, hey, I really want to go do this, I'm super excited about it. Case in point, we were doing a massive fundraise in our investment group, and I had people come up to me and they said, yeah, I don't really care about the investment. It's really your excitement behind it that made me want to invest. And that's the excitement about somebody's health improving. It's the excitement about them losing weight. It's the excitement about seeing your children succeed. That's what makes it lots of fun for me. And it's the excitement to see you excited, to see you smile, to see your nose scrunch happen. That's when I know something's really good. Like those are the things that I think excite me and make me super happy with almost the chase, but then how to actually work the conversation back, work out that this is a benefit for both of us, that all of this has us in mind. What do you think then when we're dealing with our spouses, or let's go beyond spouse. So let's go into a business a little bit. A lot of the times when we're talking about sales and business, people may look at that as really sleazy. And actually the stats show that if you're a man and you're in sales, the compliance goes way down. It decreases by almost 50%. Versus if you're a female, you already have a leg up on the competition. So how do you use that to your advantage?
Well, I think it comes back to, I think as a, well, as a mom, but I think just as a woman, we are maybe a little bit more intuitive to be able to read into somebody's
I would
behaviors
agree with that.
and if that person is open or closed.
You're more empathetic.
And so I think that has a big starting point of me being able to maybe appropriately respond to that person, be able to approach that person, be able to know when to ask those questions of different things. I mean, so this can be the same thing like if you're an employee and you're trying to talk to your employer or your boss, of finding out like when is a good time. A good time, there's always the right time.
Hmm.
It's what is the good time to ask that, and it's understanding who that person is and if they're open or closed.
Hey, Dr. Skip's in a good mood. Go ask him for time off. Or, like, or Dr. Julie's in a good mood and you need to ask her these questions right now because her mind's open. And that is 100% the case. So when we're talking from a business perspective, how do we lead our patients down a road for their health without making them feel like we're trying to sell them a care plan? We're more along the lines of, this care plan is actually what your body needs. This is what your child needs to get better. How do you separate that?
Well, just like everything that we've done in our clinic, we've all done it personally.
Mm-hmm.
And so this isn't something that is just made up and an expectation, and we don't follow those same guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also staying true and living the recommendation. If it's coming to healthcare, if you're giving a recommendation, you should also be following that same recommendation and those same expectations.
So transparency and being 100% authentic and not lying.
Correct.
That's awesome. That is exactly it. So this has been a really kick butt conversation. I love this because number one, I love talking about this stuff with you. But number two, maybe I learned a thing or two as to where my wife sits open-mindedly. But always check, make sure that person is in 100% open-mindedness. If you loved this podcast, if you loved this episode, please subscribe below, hit that bell so you get all the notifications, and share this to everyone you know and love. We just want to spread the positive words about how it is to raise an amazing family, how to have a fantastic miracle marriage, but more importantly, how we work with each other and have been able to do it for over 19 years, still love each other, not get envious, not get frustrated. Well, there is frustration. There's always frustration, but not let that boil over into anger or resentment, and just be able to work with each other, love each other, and know that at the end of the day, it's us together all the time. So get out there, everybody. Get it done. We look forward to talking to you next week. Bye, everyone.